Hi everybody, it's Lace, and as the sun has set and it's a little dark here in Diamond Fields, I want you to take note that I am briefly clad. These are actually bodice bottoms and a bodice top that I'm wearing, and it's as close to, like, let's say a bikini brief I could get, because this is a new series that I'm going to do called Soda Briefs. While I've done a ton of videos over the course of time of this game and me playing, I wanted to be able to re-hit on things very quickly and just give you quick information. These videos, like all the rest, will be listed in chronological order, but some folks that are new to the game may think some information may be outdated just because I did the video a couple years ago. So I'm going to re-hit some topics that I've touched on, maybe introduce some new topics because as you know, each month we get new things coming into the game and stuff like that. So I hope you'll enjoy the Soda Briefs. This first one is going to cover shopping. So, just in the couple hours that I was playing today in Universe, I kept getting or seeing the question asked, how do I compare items on a vendor and see what their stats are? Well, I guess apparently, maybe perhaps by mistake, the default settings are not letting you see the stats on items. And I actually ran into this issue, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, why can't I see my stats? Well, here's where you can go to correct that. I'm going to hit escape, which is going to take me into settings. In addition, it's in your upper right hand corner where you can click on the cogs for options. Either one does the same thing, and it brings you into, your settings and options. And I'm going to go into interface, and there's three sections kind of sort of divided here. There's a one section, two section, and well, I guess it's the fourth section actually. In the fourth section, there are two things: compare items with equipped. So, and it's going to give you a little tooltip there, or show inventory tooltips. Now, both of these compare with equipped is very useful in shopping, and I own this gear. Is this better or worse for me, kind of thing? And then inventory tooltips is just letting you see the stuff that's in your inventory and see what's associated to that. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to hit inventory. I think I probably have some equipment on me somewhere. So like when I mouse over this, you can see that it's compared with my current equipment. If I go back into settings and go back to this and turn this off and close it, then when I look at the gear in my inventory, I'm only seeing the stats on it. If I go into settings again, and let's see, I think show inventory tooltips, and I turn that off, I don't see anything when I mouse over stuff. Now the reason this is useful is some people, when they're going like this, they don't want to see all that busyness of the comparison or the stats because they know what they're looking at. But when you're shopping, you're definitely going to want to have these things on so you can make intelligent buying choices. So I'm just going to turn this back on real quick. Now for me, whether I'm making gear, selling gear, or looking to see what other people are pricing gear at, one of the most important things to me is understanding the components that an item's made out of and how that affects the stats on it, and then also being able to see the durability of an item. Unfortunately, right now, when you look on a vendor, on an NPC vendor, you can see the durability of an item, but when you're looking on a player vendor, you can't see the durability, and the durability means a heck of a lot. In other words, when I hit I for inventory, and let's just go back to these old boots that I've got that I've had for quite a long time. When I look at it, on the fourth line, third line, after it says crafted by Lace de la Morte, you'll see durability, looks like it says 51 to 70 and max 76. Now, if I'm shopping and I see something for sale, let's say for, I don't know, 10,000 gold, if the durability is 10, well, that's not going to last me very long. But if the durability is 100, that's going to probably last me a pretty long time. Now, in situational things, sometimes low durability is fine for like PvP. It might be super overpowered, it might be really great in a PvP tournament. So that 10 durability, it might be worth it if that's what your goal is. But for everyday hunting and stuff, you're gonna take damage from mobs hitting you or possibly death, even unexpected death. Even though if you think you're uber, stuff happens. I think there was a post recently about power outage. You can die from a power outage, it happens, and your armor will take a durability hit. So when we look at a piece of armor, I'm looking at this, and on the third line it says durability 17 of 75, max is 80. Now with the repair kits, I can repair this up to 75 on a crafting table or even just in the field repairs. In the field repairs give a little less, I think, durability per repair kit that you use. Repair kits drop either from mobs or bundles, or they can be made with the exception of the tool repair kit. You can only purchase those, or they're dropped. You cannot craft them. That recipe is not in game. So keep that in mind too for tools. These are like your harvesting tools or your skinning tools, things like that of that nature. That'll be a whole other video. But anyway, we can use the repair kits to get this back up to 75. And when your gear starts to losing durability in the upper right, you'll see a little like broken icon showing that it's, getting low. And that's usually when that durability turns to a yellow. Mine's still green at 17, but it's probably one more hit, one more good smack by a bear, and that thing will be at 16 or 15. And it's a percentage of the max that when it turns yellow, it'll just start being yellow. The thing that I was getting to is, though, the max durability. The way to get something repaired back up to max durability, if I hit control, and this is useful for shopping, do you see how the fourth line says major repairs? I can't really move the mouse quite there and keep the control key on it, but you'll see major repairs too. So 2 times I've repaired this thing back up to its max durability. You'll also note on that third line of the durability, it shows 17 to 75, max 150, but then it has the minus 70 in red. Before we saw that the max was 80, and this is just showing the formula behind it. Now this item only had max 150 when I made it. It was a non-exceptional chest, again, made ages ago. But with the enchantments and masterworks that I did, it took 70 durability away from it. And then as we look down and go further down past durability, these are the things you're going to want to look at when you're shopping. Light armor torso, these are the base inherit stats. Light armor pieces, armor set bonus of 10% with light armor skills, and that's using those skills. You can now mix and match armor and stuff, say your light and your heavy. Again, another video. Just want to show the basics for shopping here. And you can see this is constructed of copper coil of wire and how many and what those things do. So if I make it out of copper wire, 8, so it looks like it's a 0.5% or 0.5 weapon damage for each coil that I used. I just used simple leather straps. There's 3. Looks like it rounded up to 0.4 combat dodge modifier. Copper binding, 3.3 weapon damage, so that's probably 1 per binding. And then the enchantment, put some dexterity on it, and you can see it took 20 durability away. So every time you masterwork an enchant, it takes away durability. Failures will give you no boon, and it just takes durability. Doesn't mean it's going to be a bad piece of equipment. It's just going to mean it's going to have lesser durability on the finished product. So these are all things to look at when you're shopping. One other thing to go into shopping is understanding what T2 components mean, because they're going to raise the cost of armor considerably. T2 components are things like suet, tin, nickel, beetle carapace, and all these things give additional stats to the item that they're incorporated in. Each type has a different property, and many people have set up museums or whatever. I set up quote-unquote a crafting school, and it's here in Diamond Fields, and if I hit M for map, it should be marked on the map here. Yeah, it is. Crafting school. So if you ever come in here, feel free to stop by the crafting school, not only to look at it the way the same people say you can hit the museums and stuff, but I have published some books, like this one's going to be on tools and stuff. But the main purpose of anybody that says they've created a museum, or perhaps they've called it a crafting school as well, the idea behind it was to showcase different items that you can do in the game, and from being made from different components, what happens. So like we see a bunch of boots here, right? So I can hit control and oops, I'm sorry. I can hit control and we can see what white iron binding does on these. Okay, and then we go to the next pair of boots and we can see what a meteoric iron binding does on these. It's near the bottom there, and these were just showing different bindings. Again, bronze binding, what it does. So bronze binding is a tier 2. It's made from tin and copper, help to make the bronze ingots, which then you can turn into bindings. And you can see how the bronze binding has 2 stats, weapon damage and damage resistance. And when I look at this one, This was white iron. It also has two. Let's see if there's a plain one here, maybe. And then copper only has one. Copper binding only has one. So your T2 components typically have two stats associated to them versus just one. These are things to keep in mind, that when you have T2 components, either in the base material, the yard of leather, the bolt of cloth, the sheet, the coil, that it's going to be far more expensive when you're shopping because it costs more to make. Because these things can only come from when somebody is out there gathering and they happen to get those items, and then they make the final product, the sheet or whatever, to be incorporated into the final product rather. One other helpful tip, just like being able to mouse over things, so if things change in the game, you'll see the new stats reflected on the items, which is why people have done the museums and the crafting schools, is to reflect the changes without having to go to a third-party website or something to find out what those stats would be. And there was one website that had all the things listed out pretty nicely, but it has shut down. However, I can do this. In my chat log, I can type in SodaWiki materials, and that's going to open a page in my browser. And when I look at this, I can see metals, woods, and variants. What we're interested in is the variants, and it's going to show. So there's the bronze hilt that's showing. That's hilts, maybe not so much. You don't see the doubles on those. But like what I was talking about on the T2 on the bindings, so you see the weapon damage and the damage resistance, and iron only has the damage resistance and things like this. Now, not everything may be filled out on the variations on SodaWiki at this time. I know there's been many people working on to get this updated since we kind of lost the website that was the go-to. But this is just another way that when you're shopping, you can understand what you might want to be looking for, if you're looking for a focus build or a mage build and things like that. And it just, has the ingots, the different weapon heads, what happens. And really on the weapon heads, the only difference is that the number of ingots it takes to make something. So if a dagger only takes X number and a great axe takes more, that's why it looks like it's more. It's because it's using more of the base meteoric ingot there. So that's all that means. Again, you can go through here and look at the woods and stuff. So maybe you can, you're trying to find a crafter to make a custom order for you. You can understand what you might want to order based on what your goal is. Is it focus? Is it strength? Is it dex? Is it, a particular gem proc from slotting an item with a gem? Again, another video to get into all that. This is really just mostly about shopping, and when you're shopping, sometimes you're just looking for a crafter to make you specifically what you want. So this goes kind of hand in hand with that. So we've covered a couple ways to find out what different materials do to the equipment, either via a school/museum, where different examples of different types of woods used, different types of metals, and things of that nature can help you learn what does what without always having to go to a website, or you can go to a website to find out what might be the best thing for you to make. And just a hint on the crafting school, you can see all these public caches, or there's different books that have been written about some of the different types of weapons and armors and things that go with it. So yeah, a little self-promotion there. Next up, let's go to a quote-unquote what people will call a shopping town. Before we duck into one of these quote-unquote shopping towns, I want you to look at this area. This is the Central Brittany cluster where a ton of POT owners stuck their plots. This doesn't mean that these are going to be the cheapest prices, the best prices, the lowest prices, the best gear, or anything. It's just if you're brand new to the game, it might be a good place to start wandering around looking at the POTs and stuff, and you'll come to find that you'll have vendors that you know are going to give you a good deal, and vendors that are going to be a little higher than others and stuff like that. That's all just a learning experience part of the game. Just like going around, let's say perhaps before Amazon, you had to go around store to store and you literally window shopped. You've got to do that in this game. You're going to have to window shop. There is no global bulletin board like in some games where you can just find the lowest price. And then secondly, with the variation on gear, just because something's 15,000 here for a set of leather chest, that same leather chest might be 15,000 over here, but has completely different stats. There's just huge variation. So also trying to quantify something by the number of pluses is very, very misleading. That is why the control key is your friend. Look at the stats, look at how it was built, look at the durability, look at the number of repairs and things like that. So again, I'm standing here on the overworld map of Novia. I'm going to hit Info Map to bring up the Novia map. Just to give you an idea, if we look at the whole map, you can see I'm pretty much kind of in the center of it. So Central Brittany is kind of in the center of the map. So depending on where you start, this is kind of your target area, maybe to just check out first. Now, what you may find is you're going to find a POT down here, which may sell it way cheaper because maybe they don't have as much foot traffic, so their prices are lower. These are things to consider when shopping. You're going to find where your good deals are. Now, we didn't used to have a trader's channel, but now you can just ask in a trader's channel, say, I'm willing to pay this for that, or I'm selling this for that. So you got a lot more communication also to help your shopping. One other thing before we go into a quote-unquote shopping town, I want to point you to a website that's going to also give you some price points. Now, it's not all-encompassing. It's a voluntary basis what vendors upload their sales receipts, but it can give you at least a ballpark on some things. The problem is that it's only going to show pluses, which I just talked about. Pluses can be very, very misleading. A plus 15 of this versus a plus 15 of that can be completely different. They can be, one could be horrible and just have plus 15 of crap, and the other could be plus 15 and be very good. So that's the only thing to be mindful. Let's jump to that website real quick. So this website is shroudoftheavatar.net. It is not run by Portalarium, even though it says Shroud of the Avatar, but they let that go, and it's .net. Now, I'll let you explore all the things in the website. There's a lot of good information here from the API data, the Soda Vendor tool, where if you register, you can upload your receipts and help community crowdsource pricing and things like that. When we talk about shopping, you might want to go to the price list, where it's going to list the things that have been sold and stuff. And 1 second, it should load up a search box here. As it's loading, wow, it's loading very slow. But I could type in something like, oh, there you go. How about pillows coming up? Let's just see what pillows are going for. So I'm going to type in pillow, and we can see the minimum price is 40, the average price is around 600, the max price is 5,000, and 167 have been sold. So by people uploading their receipts, this should give you some price points to see how much something should cost. Deco's pretty easy because, you know, it doesn't have the pluses and things like that. But if I typed in, let's see, leather chest, perhaps. Now, we can see by the 10s, the 11s, the 12s, we probably are going to see a pretty big variation. Min price, max price, or average price, max price on a plus 10, plus 11, and the quantity sold. So, of course, the lower number sold, that means that's less data, so that number doesn't necessarily mean anything. Now, a plus 2, they've been 19 sold. That just tells me that was just one crafted. It wasn't even enchanted or masterwork. Possibly it was, and every time you fail an enchant or masterwork, it takes 1 plus away. So this is why pluses can be very, very deceiving. You can't really say. I see players make the mistake of going, I want a plus 15 chest. Well, plus 15 chest can mean 1 million different things. So that just don't get caught up in pluses. Look at the stats that you want. But again, now you can look at just some price points. You can't tell if it was made out of tier 1 materials or tier 2, but at least you can shop for some things. It's very good for deco, or maybe even stuff that came from old backer rewards or things like that. Those are going to be pretty consistent, where you don't have the variation in the quote-unquote pluses. So I just wanted to introduce you to this site. I don't have anything to do with it. I'm not trying to promote somebody's site. This is just a good place to get information as a new player, and trying to shop. In addition of those participating, you can see maybe some towns to hit by the volume of foot traffic. But again, that can be misleading. Like I said, just because a place doesn't have high foot traffic doesn't mean you're not going to find good things for sale. So I've just popped into Novia Market. My friend governs this, Robin Hood, one of my guildies and stuff. And I am picking one in particular because I happen to know the owner and I actually have shops here. But what you'll find in some of your best market towns is going to be a good layout where it makes it easy to shop, where you can run up and down rows and stuff. Now, while some towns may be beautiful, and Diamond Fields is kind of an example of this, it's laid out to be beautiful. It's not set up just as a shopping town. There's some that are set up as a shopping town with winding and meandering paths that are frustrating as hell. To me, it's not a good shopping experience. It takes a long enough time just to shop, just to go around. Then you got to try to remember where that vendor was, or make a note, or whatever, so you can come back after you've window shopped. At least having a good town layout to me is essential. So if you buy a POT off somebody or something, or you got one coming up in episode 2 or something like that, think about your design layout. Really, before you start letting residents in, work on the design. If you're trying to go for a shopping town, really think about what's good, what works for you when you're out there shopping. Is it stuff scattered all about, or is it concentrated to where you can get in, get out, find what you need and stuff? Another thing that a lot of the quote unquote shopping town people have done is they've put common areas where common things listed, like this says wands and bows, this says sell and buy orders, and it's all categorized. That now the thing that can trip you up on that is there's limited people that have access to putting things on those vendors, so it's not a good representation of the town per se. And I'm not saying that you're not going to get a good deal or a bad deal or anything from them, but keep in mind those are typically like co-op vendors that are labeled like that, or possibly just one person owns them all. Most of the ones that are just players like you will have individual names, and if they're thinking about it, they'll put what they have for sale, maybe the date it was last updated, because that can be useful to you as you're shopping. If a vendor hasn't had their stock updated in 2 weeks, they will sit down. If there's a chair near them, they will sit in the town. So this also helps you as a shopper, because you'll go, oh, I looked at this 2 weeks, it's been, you know, 2 weeks since I've been there, and they're sitting down, so I know nothing new's been added. I don't need to spend my time clicking on them to open them. Doesn't mean they won't have anything good. It just will help you know that you've already looked at what they have. So you'll notice some put a date of when it was last updated. So while this guy may be sitting down, we know that he was last updated July 17th. Again, it just helps you as a shopper. So if you're putting up a vendor somewhere, then you probably, try to be specific with what you're selling. I'm not saying everybody's the same way, but I'll blow through a place, and if I don't see in the name what's being sold, I'll probably just bypass it, because usually I'm on a mission to find what I want, get in there, get out, So if it just says deco, or if it just says, and I'm not looking for deco, or it just has a name of a guild, no offense, Mahari and the Jade Dragons, I know that this is probably just going to have a mishmash of stuff, and if I'm looking for something specific like an artifact, I'm not going to stop here, I'm going to stop there. So just be mindful of that when you're setting up your own vendors, and keep that in mind when you're shopping. It might save you a ton of time, because as you go through and click on every single vendor, it takes a ton of time. I think one last shopping tip to give before I end this is, you see how there's these boats here? Now, when they're marked in red, and this could be wagons or boats, that means they're probably connecting outside of a POT connection, either to the overland map or to an NPC town. And when you see boats with white sails, I don't see one here. Looks like I don't see a connection to another NP or another player-owned town. But this will work too. When I'm over this one's overworld, that one's not going to work. When I'm on this one goes to Brittany Alley's. See how it says hold control key to expand? Again, this works on POTs. When I hit it, it'll tell me the notable merchants there, and these are NPC merchants because this is an NPC town, but it would work on a POT. It would tell me what type of merchants they have. It would tell me vendors, so we can see there's a public vendor there, and there's 96, looks like it says 95, I can't read that, I don't have my glasses on all the way, bad me. 98, I had to put them on, 98 player vendors, so that tells me there's a lot of player vendors there. The same thing works on POTs. I know how many vendors are there, so if I'm on somebody's connecting docks, I can see it. I also see trainers, I see some quests, and other useful information. So as I'm exploring the world, not only for shopping purposes, just hit control before you zone into a place. You might get some insightful information there and stuff like that. But it really works well. I know Diamond Fields has a lot of connections. Unfortunately, this one doesn't, to where I can show you, but it would show me the same kind of information that it did for that NPC town. And that's going to be important. Like if you want to go somewhere and you're shopping and it says it's got one vendor, might not want to spend my time zoning in and zoning out to go check out the one vendor. But if it says 15, 20, yeah, I might go check out and see what they got. So, I think that's the last shopping tip. I hope this first of many soda briefs gave you a lot of information focused around shopping and everything that goes into creating gear and knowing how to shop. I probably could have gone on for another 3 hours on this subject, but this was supposed to be a brief. So, take care, everybody. Happy hunting and be safe.